Hello, everybody. Just want to give you a quick update. I've been sick, so we didn't get a chance to record this week. So we're going to do another week of old episodes. Got 2 episodes this week from way back before the podcast when we just recorded and talked about movies. And I hope you enjoy these little lost relics.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Trashy Boys. I'm Nathan.
And I'm Ryan.
And today we are talking about the 1974 blaxploitation movie Foxy Brown, directed by Jack Hill. Do you have any experience with Foxy Brown?
I mean, don't have any direct experience with it. I knew of it for the longest time, and just because, I do like the movie Jackie Brown. I'm a big Quentin Tarantino fan.
Ooh, wow!
I know.
Didn't know you were a film head.
I know, not many people like him. That's why I'm such a fan. Anyway, I do. In the movie Jackie Brown, on the DVD extras, Pam Grier is the star of that movie. And if you look, there's a list. You could watch a bunch of the trailers for movies that she has done previous to this, during the 70s and the 80s, and that was one of them. So that was my experience with it. I was like, oh yeah, that looks pretty good.
Yeah. Similar, I'd heard of Jackie Brown, and then the movie Grindhouse came out, and I got really interested in 70s movie. So, I don't really love Grindhouse, but that movie got me introduced into trashier movies or exploitation movies, and I learned about blaxploitation. And I've known about Foxy Brown for a while and never watched it. I've actually seen Coffee, which is the movie she did before this, but I've just never gotten around to watching Foxy Brown.
Which was originally supposed to be, Foxy Brown was originally supposed to be the sequel to Coffee, right?
Yes, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it was originally supposed to be the sequel. It kind of became its own thing. Came out the year after. Supposedly, the production for this movie was very fast. And have you ever seen Coffee?
Nope.
Plot is exactly the same. So it's just
really
not. I guess exactly is a strong word, but it is very, very similar. But I mean, if you're into these kind of movies, that's just kind of how it goes.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like taking that power back of, they've been wronged in the past, so they were like, I have to take the law into my own hands.
Exactly. Yeah, and that's exactly what this movie is. I just thought this was funny, but the way we watched this was on Tubi, and we were worried that it was going to be a censored version. Sorry, not on Tubi, on Pluto TV, and we thought it was going to be censored. And I texted you whenever I saw Pam Grier's boobs in the first 5 minutes, and I was like, "Oh nope, this is not censored."
No, definitely a lot of boobs in this movie, a lot of sex, and definitely a lot of white people saying the N-word that are the evil characters. So definitely not censored.
Yes, it's sleazy. It is a sleazy movie. But I do love the opening credits. Very James Bondish, of very 70s colorful Pam Grier dancing as the titles go by. Go ahead.
It's just it's like a lot of those other blaxploitations where they parody, or Shaft would do something like that, where it had the cool theme song, or it's got this real psychedelic type of intro where it's a lot of flashing colors and color swipes. It looks really good. It was a really cool intro.
Yeah, I think it's a good start. But this movie it starts with a bang. It's got Foxy Brown's brother, who is on the run from the law. He is a drug dealer. And Foxy Brown gets called to save her brother, and it's a car chase at the very beginning. Foxy Brown comes in, kind of has this white dude on the front of her car, and is trying to get him off. It definitely starts the movie with a bang, which it kind of needs, because I do think maybe the next 15-20 minutes not a lot happens.
No. One thing I wanted to add, though, at the beginning of the movie is he goes to I guess it's a taco stand, because they order it's this weird assortment of food. One guy's I ordered a hot dog, and he orders, which I thought was a really weird comment. Have you ever had a taco with coffee?
No. Whenever I heard that, I was also confused. I was looking at the menu what is this place? Yeah, no, he orders I want a taco and a coffee, which I've never had before.
And I mean, he's trying to get these cops to stay because there's these guys that have loaned him money, and he knows as soon as the cops leave, they're pretty much going to beat him to death, pretty much. And he keeps trying to get the cops like, "Here, don't forget to finish your taco. You want to finish your coffee too? Like you hate to waste all that coffee."
Uh-huh.
But yeah, the stunts in it were really good, like you said. I mean, like the guy, I mean, he's really riding onto the car. I mean, there's really no way back then to fake anything like this. There's no CGI or anything like that. It's pretty much like you got to ride on the hood of this car as we're driving at high speeds.
Yeah.
And like her brother is upside down, like trying to get in through the moon roof, and like get some guys on like the hood of his car, and she's trying to swerve the car, make him fall off, and then she ends up just stopping in front of a dock, and he just flies into the water.
Yeah, he just flies into the water, and then she hides the brother for a little bit, and then she goes to the hospital, and we've come to find out this guy has gotten facial surgery. He's all wrapped up. And she goes to have sex with him right in the middle of this hospital room. And then the nurse breaks it up. The nurse is like, none of that in here. But go ahead.
Not only that, but, you know, they were about to have sex. So obviously, you know, he was ready to go, so to speak. And the nurse is like about to give him a sponge bath. So she sees this man's erect penis. You don't see it, but like that's what it's implied. And then she slaps it as hard as she can, the nurse. And he's like, oh.
Yeah. And then just a hard cut from that scene to them taking his bandages off.
Yeah.
And then and this guy's gotten a new face because I guess he used to be a federal agent. And he was undercover and he had to get facial reconstruction. And I thought this would be a bigger part of the movie, but no. Well, we won't go that far yet because they're out in the streets, and it kind of brings up a lot of topics about, because there's a other group of people that are there to take down drug dealers, vigilantes, not cops. And Foxy Brown and her federal boyfriend kind of talk about like, oh, well, Foxy's like, I love vigilantes. And then the cop's like, no, vigilante justice is not how you solve these issues.
Yeah. And they introduce these characters, and you think they're going to be playing a lot bigger part, but they really don't show up until the ending again. So
exactly. Yeah. I think it almost came as like a weird when I saw him in the end. I was like, oh, okay. Yeah. Cause I
forgot about them, to be quite honest. And then when they showed them again, I'm like, wait, who's that? And I'm like, oh wait, that's the people from the beginning of the movie.
Yeah. They must've just been like, oh crap, we got to introduce these people.
But I wonder though, like, so, I mean, obviously this is a really low budget movie, and there is a scene like you said, where it's like these, guys, like they're just taking their own vigilante justice, and they're just fighting these people like in the middle of the street. I'm like, you know, I always think about this stuff now. It's like was the neighborhood just like out there just watching like these two guys just kicking each other's ass? Or
probably like they probably weren't closing down streets for this movie, right? Like,
no, that's what I'm thinking. Yeah. So they just saw somebody getting beaten up, and they're just like, oh well, you know, I guess that happens out here.
Just a normal thing. They're always shooting movies out here. Some guy with a film camera is filming fights out here.
Yeah.
There's a fake magazine stand though that they do like crash into and get all that. It's like selling dirty magazines out on the street corner, which I find is funny.
Well, I mean, yeah, I guess that was a real thing. That, I mean, we don't see it now, but I guess that happened before in the day. I don't know. Different time. People were seeing Deep Throat in the theater, so. But everyone, you know. Well, I'll just go ahead and say it. Most of the acting in this movie is pretty rough.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I love Pam Grier. I do, and I apologize, Pam, but you weren't that great either.
That's what I said. Like, Pam's acting is not great in this one, because there's just not a whole lot of emotion. It's just, there is, but it just seems so faked and forced, and it just doesn't feel natural at all. It feels like, it's like, okay, now you're mad. Read this like you're mad.
Yeah, it's definitely, it doesn't hit the notes that I don't think it needs to hit. especially with scenes like, well, the federal agent, kind of like what sets the rest of this movie up is the federal agent gets shot because her brother finds out, oh, he's undercover, so he gets the drug dealing gang to kill him. And Pam Grier is supposed to be really sad about this, but I never really got that. But that also could be the script, because she kind of just jumps straight into revenge mode.
Yeah, there's not a whole lot of mourning, but I guess you could say it's a creative direction, just saying like, oh, well, she's not going to be powerless anymore. She's immediately going to become powerful again. So,
yeah.
Which let's just take it away her being fragile at all.
Yeah, which I guess is good. I guess that does make complete sense, because she does play a badass. You know, she kicks ass and just kills people. I guess I was reading just reading about this movie. There's a book written about like violent women in movies, and this was like one of the starts of that. Just powerful Black women in movies. But the thing is she poses to a modeling agency, which I'll put in quotations, which is actually just an undercover prostitution ring. And she falls in with that to kind of set up her revenge, because that prostitution ring is also a part of the drug dealing ring.
Yep.
Yeah.
And they kind of let them know like, oh, well, we're escorts, but we only deal with high powered clients, like people that can actually affect like how they can get any financial or political power gain. And and I think that's where they set up her first job or whatever, is when her and another escort, who's like this mother, and her husband comes by and says, I'm taking the kids away, if you don't leave this. And she's like, I can't leave, they're too powerful. And then they go to a hotel, and their job is to seduce a judge, so that way they'll drop one of the charges against the people.
Yeah, and it's like her and the other girl go to the main judge that's going to, like, through like them having sex with them, he's going to let some people go that are part of the drug dealing ring. So Pam Grier decides that he's going to humiliate this guy. Like pulls down his pants, calls his penis small and everything.
Yeah, it's a really messed up scene, kind of, because you're just like, I didn't know what direction they were going, because they don't explain what they were doing beforehand. And one thing that was funny beforehand is like, originally Pam Grier was supposed to be with like another guy. He's like, oh no, you're with me. She's like, oh, forget you, I'm with this guy. Because she had a mission, and I was just like, imagine how that guy must feel that he got turned down by a paid escort.
Right? Yeah. Like, how do you get a refund on something like that?
It's just like, you look so terrible that even someone can't be paid enough money to be with you.
Yeah. No, that is humiliating. Also, this whole time they're making fun of this guy, and I'm thinking, oh, this other woman here is going to get screwed over because Pam Grier decides to like make fun of this guy, and she goes along with it.
That's what I didn't understand either, because she made like a big deal, like, I can't, like, I have to do my job because otherwise I'll never see my kids again, or they're going to kill me or something like that. And they go along with this. And what's really funny too is they're like describing like this guy, and they're just saying like all his crimes so casually, like trying to like sway the judge. She's like, oh yeah, he murdered some people, but they deserved it. And he was dealing marijuana, but it wasn't like he was dealing the hard stuff. He's only been dealing it since he was in high school. And yeah, so what? He molested a couple of kids. They liked it. What's the big deal?
Yeah. Just like these horrible, horrible crimes.
Yeah.
God. And he was still willing to look the other cheek, or turn the other cheek, I think, for the sex that he was about to get.
Yeah, this was a very desperate man, but yeah, they humiliate him so much so that they take his pants and underwear off, and then they throw him out into the hallway where he's like deemed as this pervert.
And a bunch of women beat him with like umbrellas.
Yeah.
And then, come to find out that the judge gives them a harsher sentence, the people he was supposed to get off. that's how she ends up getting caught, right? It's kind of like a bad plan, I believe.
Well, yeah. So okay. So what happens is well, first there's a scene where like the girl that she was with was like kind of really depressed because she's kind of figuring out like, well, since I did this, I'm never going to see my kid again. And they go to a lesbian bar.
That's right. Yeah.
Which is my favorite scene in the whole entire movie because like the one woman's trying to hit on her and then Foxy comes in there and she's like, no, she's coming with me. She's like, hey, well, why don't you just get lost? She's like, I have a black belt. I could kick your ass. And then Foxy like grabs like a bar stool and hits her over the head with it. And like, she's like, I got my black belt in bar stools. and then it's just this giant like fight like in like this lesbian bar where it's just like everybody just starts fighting with each other. And they manage to get away. And then like right as they're about to leave, the original one they hit in the head like gets up and then they grab another bar stool and hit her over the head again.
And it's funny how many silly moments like this movie has for like its harshness throughout. And we're not even at the harshest scene, I don't think. But it has like these silly like little moments, like a little break in everything.
Yeah, I was like, I guess this is supposed to be funny because it is really funny.
Yeah.
So they're on the run, and then eventually they see them, like the drug lords or whatever. They see them, and they chase them, and they Foxy like gets one of the guys and cuts his face, but the blood looks really bad because it looks like someone just threw like a glob of paint on his face.
Yes,
it doesn't look evenly spread at all. It just looks like someone just did like a paint roller on his face. Oh no, yeah, that's where she gets captured, and then we're getting towards like the worst scene of the movie.
Yeah, I think this scene is a little too brutal. I think this is part of like I'd love to talk about all of these movies, but the video nasties from the UK where Margaret Thatcher was like, hey, these movies, you can't rent them, you can't buy them in our country. Foxy Brown is one of those movies, which is kind of surprising. But this scene is just like where she's tied up in a bed and being drugged and raped at a farm by these two drug manufacturers, and it's just not fun to watch. It's very brutal.
Yeah, so she gets thrown into the drug farm, what they call it, and they're just like, oh well, that she can go there and just let the boys have a good time with her or whatever, and she's either getting drugged or she's getting raped. It's horrible. It's really brutal to watch.
Yeah. But she eventually overcomes. She gets a razor blade in her mouth. She cuts off the rope, and she has a pretty good escape. I do like it where she gets the hangers and like makes a giant like rod out of it and like scratches the dude's face, gets gasoline and like burns the place down. So she eventually gets away. She gets out of it.
Yeah. It was really good. I mean, they burnt down like a whole house, and it looked good. They definitely didn't fake that.
No, yeah, exactly. Yep, it looked good. And this is this is when the Black Panthers come back into the movie, where she recruits them to help her brother. If things start to move a little fast, Sid Haig shows up. Hey,
I know,
the man.
I know. I was like, wait a minute. I was like, that's Sid Haig.
Yeah. Foxy Brown kind of seduces him into taking a flight in his helicopter. Yeah.
Yeah. She finds out that he does drug runs for these people in his airplane to Mexico. And so he flies in, basically just like, oh, well, will you take me on one of your rides? And he's like, he agrees to take her. And that's how she ends up finding the people that wronged her.
Yep. And she takes the plane from Sid Haig. Sid Haig thought he was a lucky man, I guess. And that wasn't true. And yeah,
this is another really brutal scene. Like this whole like the deaths in here are crazy.
Yeah. There's a castration. Somebody gets their junk cut off in this.
Yeah. He gets his dick just chopped right off, and then while Foxy's driving the airplane, one of the guys just gets mutilated by the propeller. She drives the airplane into him, and you just see his body just get chopped up into
Yeah.
pieces.
And you'd expect like these kind of kills and stuff out of a horror movie, and this is not really a horror movie. It's exploitation. You know, that's just
Yeah.
of its time.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say we get to our climax of the movie.
Yeah, where the bad woman, she they eventually catch up to her, and they make her suffer. That's like the way you made me suffer. That's right.
Yeah, she said death would be too easy for you.
Mm-hmm.
So, because she murdered the guy that she loved, and she chopped off his dick and brought his dick in a jar to him, and so she has to live with the fact that the only man that she loved is dead, and she's got nothing left. So Foxy just gets in the car, and hard cut into the movie.
Yep, and that's it. The end.
Yeah, I mean, you could definitely see how it's really big inspiration for other types of movies. I really love that, they had the female character kind of taking matters into her own hands. Even though Pam Grier is not great in this movie, you could definitely see like the makings of a star coming up.
Pam, even though she's not great, Pam Grier has some sort of star power, right? That's Pam Grier. She has a look to her. She just seems badass in this movie. They really set her up to be like a big star.
Which I wouldn't say, she doesn't have that natural acting ability, but she has that real natural charisma. She feels like she's like a big deal when she's on screen. It's just that the lines don't translate well.
Exactly. And I know that one day she'd end up in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which is awesome. Or sorry, Bogus Journey.
She is in that?
Yeah, she is. Wow.
Oh, I didn't
She really made it.
Well, no. So she does eventually receive critical acclaim as Jackie Brown.
Mm-hmm.
And she gets nominated for a couple of awards for that. And at that point, 20 years in the business or 30 or whatever, she's definitely a really accomplished, she's a real polished by then.
And she has so much work under her belt by then. She's been in a lot of movies. I'm like looking at her filmography right now. She was in Palms in 2019. She's still continuing to work to this day. So
yeah,
she's great.
I mean, that's one thing. I mean, so if you see like a B movie from the 70s, and there's a one black character in it, chances are it's probably going to be Pam Grier. So
yep, exactly.
But but overall, though, what did you think? I mean,
I enjoyed it for what it was. I don't think it was great. I'll be honest with you. I thought Coffee was a better movie. I think movies like this need to, like, I know an hour 30 isn't long, but Coffee is a bit shorter, and I think it works in a smaller time frame. Because there's a lot of parts where I just don't think enough of interesting things were happening. Mm-hmm. But I think it's a good time. It's fun. It's a cool part of history. Just the blaxploitation genre in general. I think it's very influential. I think it's worth a watch. I think it's a fun, enjoyable watch.
Yeah. Like you said, it is an hour and 30 minutes, but it feels longer than that.
Yeah.
And that's just because they're like, okay, well, we'll give you like a taste of the action, and then we have to build up to it. And you really don't get any backstory. You don't really get a sense of like who these characters are, or what their personality is, or like why her brother would backstab her like that.
Yeah.
I mean, other than, he needed to clear off his debts, but it's kind of like, I think there was, in a really tight, like 40 minutes, it would be really good, but it's for an hour and a half. I can't say it's going to necessarily rewatch it. It's one of those like, oh, let me just see those scenes again on YouTube or whatever.
Yeah. The important stuff. Yeah. I probably exactly the same. I probably want to go through a whole sitting.
But I will say it does make me interested to see a lot of other movies like this. And hopefully there are some that maybe do hold up a lot better.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's definitely like a genre that I need to look into a little bit more. So,
and maybe we will in the future.
Yeah, that would be exciting. But Ryan, speaking of the future, what are we doing next episode?
Next week, we'll be talking about 1972's Don't Torture a Duckling.
Nice. Those poor little ducks. We'll see what happens.
We'll certainly have our ducks in a row for that episode.
And we're going to end on that. Have a good night, everybody.
Have a good night. Thank you.